This one's going to be so fun. This is going to be roasting every single NBA team. Starting us off is the Atlanta Hawks. Now, Atlanta has terrible traffic, but a special shout out to the Hawks for making sure that one street has no traffic at all. And that's the street leading to their arena, because we know no one's going to a Hawks game. They had one relevant season since 1950, and that season they won 60 games, but they were still swept right out of the playoffs. And I don't know who thought they should take a highlighter to their jerseys in court. The Boston Celtics. Their fans love to brag about how many championships they have, but in reality, Bill Russell won most of them against no competition, and they only have one in the last 35 years. That's nothing to brag about. And they've retired pretty much every single jersey number imaginable, so pretty soon players are going to have to start wearing emojis as their jersey number. And the Celtics fans love to remind you that Jason Tatum is still only 19. The Brooklyn Nets. They have the least original name in professional sports, and their logo looks like it was drawn by a preschooler. They have 0 NBA titles in over 40 years, and even New Jersey didn't want them. The Charlotte Hornets. This is by far the easiest one in the entire series. This franchise is a joke. Their only notable record is having the worst season in NBA history, and even then they didn't get the first overall pick. They got the second and took Michael Kidd-Gilchrist over guys like Bradley Beal and Damian Lillard. The front office is terrible. They wouldn't pay the best player they ever had in Kemba Walker, but they gave the Supermax to Nicholas Batum. They thought changing the name back to the Hornets and doing an entire rebrand would fix things, but it clearly didn't. The Chicago Bulls. It's never good when your most notable figure on the court is your mascot. But thankfully for the Bulls, the Last Dance documentary just came out, so they got their first national TV coverage of the season. The Bulls are one piece away from being championship title contenders, but unfortunately that one piece is a time machine. The Cleveland Cavaliers. All I really need to say with this one is Anthony Bennett. Or J.R. Smith. But wait, do Cavs fans even exist? I thought they all went to L.A. with LeBron like they did when he went to Miami. But at least you guys have the Browns. Oh wait, they're trash too. The Dallas Mavericks. I should be nice here because there's no need to beat an already dead horse, but this organization is like the San Antonio Spurs' way less attractive little sister. Their mascot Mavs Man, who's supposed to be for kids, is terrifying and looks like he's straight out of a horror movie. Their front office has made so many bad contract decisions, and they even traded Harrison Barnes in the middle of a game. If you're wondering who the best shooter in Dallas history is, just ask JFK. The Denver Nuggets. Even with an insane home court advantage due to the city's high altitude, they've never been relevant. In over 45 years, they've never even made the NBA Finals, and that's with players like Alex English, Dikembe Mutombo, and Carmelo Anthony. If you're wondering why Denver allows recreational marijuana, it's because the state knew the only way someone would go to a Nuggets game is if they were high. The Pistons. Imagine drafting Darko Milicic over Hall of Famers Wade, Bosh, and Melo, or Luke Kennard over Donovan Mitchell. The only thing famous about this franchise is the Malice at the Palace, and even then, they lost a fight to a guy named World Peace. The Warriors. At first, I thought this one was going to be impossible, but then I remembered, so was blowing a 3-1 lead after having the best season in NBA history. This team should probably put a sign on the outside of their arena that says, "Caution, easily breakable items inside," since every single one of their players tears their ACL. Now, I'm not too worried about their fans coming after me for this one, because all of their fans are bandwagons, and I'm sure they're all gone since they've only won 15 games this year. The Rockets. Now, James Harden started dribbling at the beginning of this video, and he'll still be dribbling for long after it. It'll be so fun to be a Rockets fan. You get to watch a free throw shooting contest every night. Now, this team is shorter than your local middle school team, and they go for more threes than the ugly guy looking for a date. But hopefully some of their fans come to their defense after this roast, because we know none of their players can defend. The Pacers. The franchise's only big win was during the Malice at the Palace. They traded Kawhi Leonard for George Hill. Their GM is 63 years old and would still be their best player. Now, I would say break a leg come playoff time, but Jeremy Lamb and Victor Oladipo already took that literally. The Clippers. This franchise just needs a total rebrand. Their name is probably the worst in professional sports, and their logo looks like what happens when you wait until the last minute to do a project and you have to rush to finish it. No one knows what their mascot Chuck even is, and their jerseys in court are really boring. I don't know why anyone from LA would choose to be a fan of the Lakers' little brother. The franchise has been around for 50 years and have 0 championship appearances. And this next thing is a fact. Taylor Swift has more banners in the Staples Center than they do. The LA Lakers, or should I say LA LeBron, since he's pretty much their GM and all their fans are just LeBron fans. Imagine having one of the greatest players of all time and still missing the playoffs like they did last year. This past summer, every Lakers fan bragged that they were going to get stars like Kawhi, PG, and Clay, but they ended up with Jared Dudley and Troy Daniels. The only thing positive about this franchise was Magic Johnson's test results. The Grizzlies. It's never good when more people in your city are going to a dead singer's house than your NBA team's games, but it makes sense because their front office is so bad. They drafted Hasheem Thabeet over Curry and Harden, made Mike Conley the highest paid player in NBA history, gave Chandler Parsons a max contract, and had a trade fall through because they didn't specify which Brooks they wanted to trade. With a front office this bad, it's no surprise they have 0 division titles ever. The Heat. This team has some of the worst contracts in the NBA, but my favorite is Solomon Hill, who makes over $13 million to average a monster 2 points per game. This team's jerseys are more entertaining than the actual players, but at least they get to have really special gummies on every airplane flight, so that's a great perk. Imagine someone leaving your team because they'd rather go play in Cleveland. How many roasts do I have for the Heat? Not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6. The Bucks. They're so bad, Lou Alcindor moved all the way across the country and changed his name to make sure they couldn't find him. They can't win in the playoffs. It's a shame they have all that cheese up there and only one chip to dip in it. The Timberwolves. I feel so bad for anyone that's a fan of this team because not only do they have to watch them, but they have to live in Minnesota. The highlight of their franchise was watching Kevin Garnett win a championship with the Celtics. This team trades every single good player they have, so Karl Anthony Towns, you're next. They drafted Johnny Flynn over Steph Curry and Derek Williams over Kawhi, Clay, and Kemba. Their WNBA team attracts more fans than them, and that's the only roast I needed to get my point across with this one. The New Orleans Pelicans, or should I say, Pella can't make the playoffs. If I wanted to watch Duke play, I'd go up to Cameron Indoor Stadium. This franchise wasn't even relevant when they had one of the best players in the NBA in Anthony Davis. The city of New Orleans handled Hurricane Katrina better than they've managed their NBA team. The Knicks. Remember when they were going to get KD and Kyrie? But that's okay. They got Bobby Portis and Julius Randle instead. The World Trade Center rebuilt quicker than this joke of a franchise. I'd rather go down to the subways and watch the doors open and close than see this team play. The deadly coronavirus has destroyed New York City, but thanks to the Knicks, corona isn't the worst disease in town. The Thunder. Imagine drafting 3 MVPs and future Hall of Famers, but having absolutely nothing to show for it. This franchise is less loyal to Seattle than KD was to them. I have more I could say, but instead I'll just do this. I wonder if Thunder fans remember this. The Magic. If someone tells you they're a Magic fan, they're definitely talking about Magic Johnson, because no one would be crazy enough to be a fan of this franchise. The song Mo Bamba was more successful than the actual player. It's surprising that the stars in their logo haven't left yet, like every star player does. Aaron Gordon, though, at least won 2 dunk contests. Oh, he didn't win this year? Well, at least he won a couple He didn't win that one either. The 76ers. Trust the process of an early round playoff exit every year, and then using 2 different number 1 overall picks on a guy who can't make a shot besides a layup.
Timmons, is this the dagger?
But at least your superstar's a good representation of your fan. The Phoenix Suns, or should I say Kentucky Wildcats, since they draft a Kentucky player every year and they play at the level of an SEC team. This franchise honestly makes me so mad. They wasted the prime of Steve Nash, Amari Stoudemire, and Shawn Marion, and they're going to do the same with Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton. The good news is, though, that DeAndre Ayton was suspended earlier this season, so the world was reminded that the Suns do in fact still exist. However, I personally would rather stare at the sun without sunglasses than watch this team play. The sun itself is probably going to burn out before this team is relevant again. Their mascot, Go the Gorilla, wishes he were Harambe the Gorilla, because that would mean he's dead and doesn't have to watch this joke of a team play. The Trailblazers. This team always makes a run in the playoffs, and they always come up short. Rip City is a perfect nickname for them because it represents the ligaments ripping of all their star players, especially Brandon Roy. Or even Greg Oden. Speaking of Oden, imagine drafting him over KD or Sam Bowie over MJ. Now don't get too defensive, because I know CJ and Dame won't. The Sacramento Kings. This one is so easy. They're one of the worst franchises in all of professional sports. They have the longest active NBA championship and playoff drought, and even in the early 2000s when they finally had a team that might have been good enough to make the championship, the NBA still didn't let them. I honestly think the franchise is cursed. But then again, they don't deserve to make the finals because they waste early round draft picks on guys like Jimmer Fredette, Nick Stauskas, and Thomas Robinson. I wouldn't have to say a word in this entire roast, and it would still be more successful than the entire Kings franchise. One of their announcers has a phrase where he says, "If you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball." Well, I don't know why anyone who's a Kings fan would like NBA basketball. The Spurs. The only thing more boring than this team's roster is Coach Pop's sideline interviews during games. This franchise is on a major decline. In fact, Marcus Morris, who was going to sign with them, even chose to go to the Knicks instead. The most intimidating lineup the Spurs have sent out the past few years was a group of bats. Okay, I'm really tired. I gotta stop. It's just load management. The Raptors. Does the number 81 ring a bell to you guys? If not, I'll just ask Jalen Rose. Now, more people go to Raptors games to see Drake standing on the sideline than to watch the actual team play. The Raptors finally got a star in Kawhi Leonard, and he even won them a championship, but he still didn't want to stay there. You guys know someone who would want to stay there forever, though? I know a really good guy. Oh, wait, you already stabbed him in the back and traded him. The Jazz. Their most iconic moment as a franchise was losing on a buzzer beater, and their jerseys in court are more entertaining than the actual players on the team. Hey, you right there. Yeah, you. You have the same number of NBA championships as Jazz legends Karl Malone and John Stockton. But a special shout out to Jazz center Rudy Gobert. Phenomenal defensive effort this year. He held the entire NBA scoreless for 4 months. The Wizards. A special shout out to them for making sure the U.S. government isn't the most dysfunctional group in D.C. Now, maybe they should change their name back to the Bullets with all the gun incidents they've had with players. Nah, just kidding. Wizards is perfect because they always disappear.